So nearby Nisha, we're still in it mode.
Hold on.
That's all right.
We're in mode to the point where I'm not ready for anything.
We're still in it mode, so yeah. Do you want any?
I have only a little bit of Coke left. I mean, you could probably pour
Yeah,
some
go
in
for
there.
it. Oh, we have mode. Let's go.
For once, I'm not driving in.
Yeah, Nisha's not driven in. She always drove in. I was wondering, like, Nisha been drunk in videos? No. So as I've said on the channel before, CGI is like seasoning for a movie, in that if you use too much of it, it can turn the whole thing into an unpalatable mess. Similar to seasoning, you're right.
Sorry, there was some vodka.
Oh yeah, like a bit of body on the edge.
At the top of the can.
That's the thing, like, that's nice vodka. Similar to seasoning, it's also possible to find a substitute that's near indistinguishable to all but the most seasoned of palates, as they did in the film Escape from New York, where they replicated what would ordinarily be extremely expensive CGI with nothing more than cardboard and tape. Does that sound good? That work? Right. Yeah, I'm just going to read it out from there. Let's try again. Similar to seasoning, it's also possible to find substitutes that are near indistinguishable to the real thing, but all but the most discerning of palates, like they did for the film Escape from New York, and it's CG New York. That works. So have you seen Escape from New York, eh?
I've not, but I had a brief look over the article and I recognised the name Snake Plissken and I was like, Metal Gear?
Yes. So anyone else out there who's not seen Escape from New York but is familiar with the Metal Gear franchise. Metal Gear is what's known as a homage franchise, which I mean they stole near enough everything in that series from a movie or other piece of media, because Hideo Kojima is a huge fucking nerd. And in specific regards to Escape from New York, not only did he steal the name Snake for the main character of Solid Snake and later Naked Snake or Solidious Snake and Liquid Snake and all that bollocks, you also have
Gas
the name.
Snake.
You also have Plissken, which is what Snake uses as his pseudonym in Metal Gear 2. And I'm not going to say the first name he uses because I once pronounced it in a video so poorly. Everyone made fun of me. So he's going to put the clip in from Metal Gear Solid 2 of him saying his name.
I get the Plissken part, but what about Iroquois?
Iroquois is a frankified version of the Algonquin word for rattlesnakes.
Metal Gear Solid draws so many influences from other aspects of pop culture. One of the best examples that I could think of off the top of my head is the cover for the first Metal Gear Solid game, which is behind me here, which is literally just traced from like a piece of key art for the Terminator movie.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and people seeing it now live will do it. So we can try and find that for you just to show you how fucking bad it is.
Yeah, I'll see it and be like, oh yeah.
It is shameless. And I think the only reason they got away with it is because at that point in time, video games were like not really respected as like a form of media or like art. So they got away with it. But we have here just like the cover to Metal Gear, key art of Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
That is shame. It is 1-to-1. It's fucking shameless.
Not subtle in any way.
No. They traced over it. And then the rest of the series is just a mishmash of stuff Hideo Kojima personally found cool. And apparently one of the things he likes the most is David Bowie, because there is so much David Bowie in that game to the point where, and again there'll be an image behind me, near enough every character in Metal Gear looks like David Bowie at a different point of his career. And then bringing it back to Escape from New York, the character of Snake Plissken looks exactly like Snake does in some incarnations.
Yeah.
Right down to the mullet and the eye patch.
Yeah.
And in Metal Gear Solid 5, it's never been more obvious that it's based on this character. Because you meet Big Boss in that game and he's just dressed like that, with the eye patch and the mullet and everything. Well, that's how you do that. No one's going to sue a video game. Why do you fuck it's a video game? Who gives a shit about video games? And then video games become a huge deal.
Wasn't there an issue with, was it The Last of Us?
Yes, it was the character of Ellie. And she looks suspiciously like Elliot Page.
Yeah.
And to the point where Elliot Page as management were like, the fuck are you doing? And the people making The Last of Us like, no, we're not ripping off you at all. We're actually going to base the look of Ellie on the actress playing her, Ashley Johnson. And you can see Ashley Johnson behind me, and then the later version of Ellie, where they did change Ellie's features to look more like Ashley Johnson, but it was so blatant at first. And the most famous example that we talked about before is the Ultimate Universe in Marvel, where they redesigned Nick Fury to look like Sam Jackson. And the character of Nick Fury even comments on the fact he looks exactly like Sam Jackson. And people at Marvel were like, well, Sam Jackson's never going to find out that we did this. He doesn't read comics. Not knowing that. Sam Jackson, he reads comics. He loves comic books.
He's a big fan.
And the story goes that he walked into a comic book shop and saw his own face staring back at him. It's like Nick Fury in Ultimate. Exactly like based on his appearance. Bring it back to Escape from New York. And it's a CGI quote-unquote New York. You saw the article very briefly, but you've not seen the film, so I'll describe that to you now. There's a moment in the film where the aforementioned Snake Plissken has to sneak into New York to rescue the president. The story basically, president's plane crashes, president is kidnapped. And I should also point out, in this film, New York has been turned into a prison.
Oh.
Yeah, they decided, you know what, New York, fuck it, it's a prison now. So they turn it into a big prison island. The president's plane crashes into it, president's kidnapped. They contact Snake Plissken and like, you need to prove you're a bad enough dude, go in there and rescue the president. And they put a bomb in his neck and they say, if you rescue the president before the next 24 hours or 40 hours, I forget the exact amount of time, but before that time is up, we'll turn the bomb off and we'll commute your sentence.
Okay.
And Snake Plissken, in a scene that has not aged poorly in the slightest, then flies a plane that looks suspiciously like a cheap plastic Model 1 you get from a shop towards the World Trade Centers with a bomb in his neck.
No.
And lands on the top.
No.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Like, they were a very iconic part of the New York City skyline. So a lot of films use them, when they shot in New York. Like, I think the original King Kong movie, like King Kong, he doesn't climb up the Empire State Building like people remember. He jumps across from one tower to the other.
Oh.
I think he climbs up it in one version of it, but like in the original, he jumps across one tower to the other. And then you have the Spider-Man movies initially, where the initial trailer for that first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie was Spider-Man making a web between the Twin Towers and catching a helicopter in it. And they had to cut that because, the towers got, destroyed while they were doing in post-production.
Yeah, that came out in 2002, didn't it?
Yes. And if you look at the early posters for it, you can still see the reflection of the two towers in Spider-Man's lenses.
Oh, shit.
Because they never bothered to, edit that out.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
I'll have to look at that now.
Yeah, that's the thing, and there's so many examples. I think the most famous one, or most infamous one is in, I think it's a Muppets movie where they forgot to scrub out the Twin Towers in like a flash forward sequence where Kermit is looking like as if he was never born, and the Twin Towers are still standing because they use stock footage of New York.
Oh.
And the subtle indication there is if Kermit was never born, the Twin Towers would have still been standing. And it's just I think obviously it's a mistake. They just used stock footage and forgot, the Twin Towers are still in this stock fucking footage. Maybe if you're watching the Disney Plus version, they've edited that shit out now, but we'll see.
Yeah, you can re-edit stuff, so I'd hope so.
Those coffee cups in Game of Thrones, they're not there anymore. And Joe, I don't think they should be able to do that. So Joe, when we leave in our mistakes, like when we fuck up lines and pronounce something wrong, or fall over or drop something, we leave it in.
Yeah, our embarrassments are out there still.
Yeah, like Joe, when Jackie Chan movies, they end with a montage with fucking up his stunts. Every movie should end with that.
I even like how in Pixar films they make outtakes.
Oh yeah, like they make fake outtakes if like the CGI characters are.
Toy Story 2 and Monsters Inc.
They're so good for that.
My favourite bit of Monsters Inc. is when they're all walking in slow motion down that corridor and then they trip.
It just is like, I love that. It's super meta.
What of you? And if I were handsome.
And once again, try to rein it back in, cling cling, to escape from New York. The scene that I just mentioned where Snake Plissken flies into New York is accompanied by cuts to a shot of a supposedly CGI New York, where you get to see this really cool, wireframe look of the city as the glider goes through it. And you saw the pictures there in the article, and they look really fucking cool.
It works well, it looks good.
And they look even better in motion, as you'll see from this clip.
Are you picking up the target blip?
Right on course.
And at the time this movie was made, in the 80s, they couldn't accomplish that with CGI.
I was going to say, because you mentioned that they'd use CGI with practical effects, would it not have been easier? But I guess costs and stuff like that?
That's the one, yes. So technically they could have accomplished that effect with CGI, but the cost of doing so was so prohibitive, it would have stopped them from making the movie, basically. And director John Carpenter was not happy with that, and he tasked the visual effects crew to figure out a way to do it without using CGI, and they did in about 5 minutes. And essentially what they did is they took the cardboard version of New York they'd made for some shots, which is a very common thing in movies where they make miniatures for things. I think one of the most famous ones is Independence Day, the miniature of the White House that gets blown up.
Yeah.
And my personal favourite miniature, if anyone's wondering, is in the film Pacific Rim, which we've talked about before, when the giant fist goes through the building. That's also a miniature, where it's kind of a miniature in the sense that it's smaller than the building would be, but still pretty big.
Yeah.
Because the fist is still the size of like a fucking like car engine. And it went through like, you know, a miniature set.
Yeah.
And they had to make all of the miniatures in that bit like heavier than they would be. They had to use like special material so they react when exploding in the same way as the objects of like, you know, actual size would.
Yeah, because if something that small, like made out of cardboard, would just be like really flimsy.
Yes.
Just be like lightweight. So yeah, that makes sense.
And you kind of get away with that in like movies like Independence Day, where you're just blowing something up because no one really knows what a building looks like when it, you know, it explodes like when an alien hits it. But people know what a chair looks like when it gets like, you know, pushed over. Once again, bring it back. So, oh man, you can tell
we're on 25 minutes.
Oh god, we better go quick then. We'll go quick. Well, so, to create that effect for Escape from New York, what they did is they had that cardboard city built in miniature. They painted it all black, I think, and then they got reflective tape and they put that on the edge of every single building and every single object in that, like, you know, fake city they constructed. Turned out all the lights and shone a black light on it, so it all glow green. And they filmed that, and they got a miniature camera to go through, pretending to be the plane, and it created that effect, and it's fucking seamless.
That's so cool.
And that ended up costing them like a couple $100.
Compared to like CGI, which would have been like thousands.
Yeah, it would have cost as much as the entire film made at that point in time. Like, that would have been like, you know, Kurt Russell's salary. And instead, they just got some guys with some cardboard, some tape, and a black light. No, ingenuity always wins out. And you know, miniatures is one of those like underappreciated things in film. Same thing like, you know, matte paintings and CGI itself. You know, it gets shit on a lot. But I think CGI is really good when it's used sparingly, or when it's used like, you know, in tandem with practical effects, and it can be virtually seamless when it's used well.
Yeah, because I think a lot of films now, CGI looks so good now.
Yes. It was amazing.
Like, most of it is CGI. Like, sets are just CGI now. Sometimes I'll like watch something and think, is that CGI? It looks too real.
Yeah.
Most of the time it is.
And I think one we talked about before that fucking blew my mind as someone who loves film and is like, you know, super nerdy about this shit is the Avengers film when they go back in time and Cap has the fight with himself.
Yeah.
And every single part of that scene, except for the floor, was CGI. Every single part, including like the shield. He doesn't even have a shield in his hand during that fight scene. They CGI'd the shield in.
It's like, surely they've got a practical shield they could just use.
Yeah, they do, but they CGI'd it out.
Why?
I don't know, and you know what I didn't notice on first viewing? It's like that Spider-Man movie where, like, you know, Defoe Goblin comes back.
Yeah.
His costume is entirely CGI. Do you know the bit where he leaves his mask on the dumpster? CGI.
But that's the thing, like, they should have these props.
They did, yeah.
Anyway, so surely it would be easier, make more sense, and be cheaper to have it there.
And that's the argument there, yeah. Like, you know, people like myself and you have like, if anyone's curious, like, why is CGI so popular? It's not that CGI is cheaper. Practical effects are still, for the most part, cheaper and easier to utilize than CGI. However, you have to film around them very specifically, whereas CGI, you can correct a lot of filming mistakes. Say, for example, one of my favorite films, The Thing. The practical effects in that are incredible, but they're only incredible from the specific angle from which they're shot.
Yeah.
Any other angle, they look terrible. And that's the problem with them of like, if you don't get the shot exactly right, then you have to do it all over again. Whereas with CGI, you can hide that. Or you have the camera, like, you know, whip around and do all sorts of crazy bullshit. And it reminds me, we mentioned Pacific Rim there. And I really like what Guillermo del Toro did, is when making that film, even though they had a CGI camera capturing the action, he told the CGI artist, pretend the camera is a real cameraman. And for anyone curious what that means, he meant like keep in the imperfections that a camera would capture, such as a giant 400-ton robot taking a step would shake the street. And if it shakes the street, the camera would also shake.
Yeah.
And a CGI camera, you know, because those shots are entirely CG for the most part, the camera doesn't have to shake because it's, you know, it's just an object floating in the environment. But he told the effects artist, pretend that the point of view we're capturing this from is a real camera and that those imperfections are being captured because it will sell the thing as being real.
It makes it more real, yeah. It's hard sometimes to add those in because I've added in shake effects before and sometimes it's
never quite
hard,
right, is it?
Yeah, it sometimes just looks a little bit off.
Yeah, let's just, you know, smash cut to a shot from Star Trek TNG where, like, you know, they get shot by a photon torpedo and everyone on the deck's like, whoa! And then heroes have gone and stabilised the camera. So all they did, they shut the camera and told the actors pretend you're being thrown around.
Yeah.
And people have stabilised the footage and it's just like, you know, Patrick Stewart's going, whoa! It's like, it looks great.
Shields at maximum. Full reverse.
Also, oh fuck, I forgot to mention you can you can buy this shirt now. This is now in the merch store. No, I got to we're so bad at
you were
this.
like, oh, I'll wear this shirt so I can advertise it.
Yeah, this is now in the merch store. Big Fact Energy. Check it out.
In red.
In red. If you want it in another colour, you're shit out of luck unless you bug us on social media and we'll make it another colour if you like it.
Rainbow.